The end of British colonialism was actually the beginning of Indian more severe form of colonialism. Nagas only declared independence, but India got independence on the mentioned day, that is 15th August 1947. So my dear viewers, I thank God for this wonderful time and I welcome all of you today to my 15th Polity lecture. This video is a continuing lecture from my previous upload on the theme How the Nagas Came Under India in 1947. This is part 2 of the same topic. Now to start with, for all the Nagas and especially to those studying Naga polity, should mark the year 1832 as extremely important year because this is the point the British first encountered with Nagas. Had the British not encountered Nagas in the year 1832, we would be writing a different story. So before 1832, except Naga-Ahom relationship, the Nagas lived in total isolation without any outside disturbance. In the history of British India, the British conflict with Nagas is a remarkable one, because it started in 1832, went until 1879-80, where the famous Battle of Konama was fought, which is described as climax of British-Naga conflict. So the conflict between the two nations, British and Naga nations, is considered as one of the longest continuing, most stubborn and difficult campaign for the Britishers. Now, Britishers were convinced about the extraordinary, unyielding spirit of the Nagas in resisting British attempts. So throughout this British Naga history, there is absolutely no record of Nagas ever surrendering or yielding to the British, whether officially or unofficially at any point of time. So the only surrender the Nagas did was to superior modern weapons of the British military, but not to the British people. Now let's read some historical incidents that happened between the Britishers and the Naga people. Despite being forced to be under British rule for some time, Nagas always dream of being free and free again once British left. So all the offers or arrangement made by the Britishers were rejected by Nagas in favor of complete independence. I have included 5 major such offers or arrangement made by the Britishers. First was the famous year of 1929 Simon Commission. So the first was the Nagas Hills was included within the reformed India scheme without consulting the Naga people. For this, the Naga club stood very firm and rejected the British move of including Nagas within Indian reform scheme. So it was also famously called as the Naga Magna Carta also, or the foundation of the modern Naga political movement. The very first step taken up by this Naga club members was a huge success because Naga Hills were declared as excluded area in the Government of India Act of 1935. The second offer is the excluded area policy under the Governor of Assam 1936. The British desired to bring the excluded area of Naga Hills under Assam. So meaning that the Naga affairs to be administered through Assam governor and not from the mainland India. And this offer was also rejected by the Nagas as it doesn't grant Nagas independence. Yet another important arrangement of the British for the Naga people was through the British Cabinet Mission of April 1946. The British wanted to bring Naga Hills under the tribal protection scheme of India's new incoming constitution. So Nagas rejected this offer, saying that the Nagas' future should not be bound by arbitrary decision of the Union government. Next is the British wanted to transfer the Naga Hills to the Indian Union. So the British transfer of power plan involves all territories including Naga Hills to pass to the new independent India without separate negotiation. So this was rejected by Nagas, saying that the Nagas could not be thrown into the sea of Indian politics. Finally, one very significant offer of the British to India just before India's independence was June 1947, famous 9-point agreement of Hyder-i-Akbar. So Hyder Governor of Assam, representing the departing British and incoming Indian authority, offered 9-point agreement to Nagas that included judicial, executive and legislative autonomy to Nagas for 10 years. Now this 9-point agreement for a period of 10 years were fundamentally interpreted in different manners by both Indian government and the Nagas. The Nagas interpreted this clause as independence from India after the lapse of 10 years. But for the Indian government, they interpreted this clause as making only a new arrangement or agreement with Nagas after 10 years, if 9-point agreement did not bring any desired change. So as a sign of rejection to this Haitari offer of June 1947, the Naga National Council, which was spearheaded by A.Z. Fizo, declared Naga independence on 14th August 1947, a day before India's independence. As there was continuing or intensification of Naga's demand for freedom and exclusion from Indian people, and also British considering about the ethnic, cultural and historical difference between Indian and other ethnic groups of Northeast, including Nagas, the one admiring suggestion of British is in the form of Crown Colony Plan of 1940s, a plan outside India. So sometimes it can also be called as a Copeland Plan. This is a serious British plan to separate tribal hill areas of Northeast India and Northwest Burma, who claim that they are racially neither Indian nor Burmese. So the plan is to keep outside independent India and Burma and to allow Nagas and other tribal communities to come directly under British rule even after 1947. So to foster distinct identity and protect the customary lives and land of this tribal people. So this concept was dropped down mainly because of two reasons, that is opposition from Indian nationalists, the pressure from the Indian national government to receive a unified, undivided India only excluding Pakistan was so much immense. So this is one chief factor why it failed, and also important reason why it was dropped down was the Naga National Council's refusal to accept this very important plan. This plan, if adopted, could have alienated or could have separated the entire Northeast region from mainland India. After India's independence of 1947, Nagas wanted to stay connected with India only for like 10 years. So the Naga National Council on 27th March 1947 proposed a memorandum submitted to the departing British government in incoming Indian government, requesting for 10 years interim government under a Karjan power, and the Karjan power can either be Indian government or the British government. The Naga National Council wanted to utilize this 10 years initial period as transitional stage or transitional period, meaning that the Guardian power should assess the Nagas, guide the Nagas and in the art of governance and administration in these formative initial years. And after the end of 10 years, Naga people would and should be left free to choose any form of government themselves. But this very important suggestion of the Naga National Council was rejected by the British government. The very idea that Nagas could be on their own was unacceptable to the Britishers. At one point of time, Governor of Assam, Sir Andrew Close, said Nagas had neither population nor the resources that a modern state should need to sustain its sovereignty. So the very idea of a separate Naga nation was not practicable according to the perspective of the British to Nagas. So if the Britishers are saying that Nagas does not have enough population or territory or resources, we can have a look at 10 very important small countries of the world like Malta, Maldives, Marshall Islands. So these 10 countries combined population is not even half of Nagaland's total population. Besides, the combined area of all of these 10 countries put together is not even 1% of Nagaland's total area. British even cited that since Nagas were deliberately left undeveloped by the British Raj, the Naga country had no established diplomatic relation with any other outside countries, had no embassies and no foreign allies. So these are another reasons that Nagaland as a separate state, sovereign state, was not practicable. Another important reason why Naga National Council's point of demand could not materialize is also because of the lack of sufficient support coming from the neighbors just like Pakistan and China. So however inimical to India, neither of these countries could also fully support the Naga cause. Let's not forget the famous Atlantic Charter, which says no territory should be transferred to any country without consent of the concerned people. The will of the people, the sovereign rights and self-determination should be respected. And quite irony is that this treaty, this charter was signed by the British Prime Minister Winston Churchill and the US President Roosevelt. So the British that have signed this significant charter violated the very spirit of the charter by handing over Nagaland to India and Burma without consulting Nagas and 100% against the will of the Naga people. So while India, Pakistan, Nepal, Burma and Sri Lanka all were given independence on the eve of British departure, Nagas instead found itself in armed conflict with the Indian government. Let's not forget that there were two nations, India and Naga nations, that fought for independence from British colonialism. Nagas declared independence on 14th August 1947, while India got independence on 15th August 1947. There's a huge difference between these two. Nagas only declared independence, but India got independence on the mentioned day, that is 15th August 1947. So even though Nagas tried to declare independence, the dream that they had about regaining sovereignty from British was shattered, because for the Nagas, the end of British colonialism was actually the beginning of Indian, more severe and more inhuman form of colonialism. It's quite ironical that after 1947, India adopted anti-colonialism as its chief foreign policy. So the country that hated and fought colonialism for many decades very soon became the colonial power itself. So the Nagas' stand to protect their ancestors' land and territory was most in a brutal and inhuman manner. It was suppressed by the Indian government. During this confrontation between the Indian government and the Naga people, the Naga National Council was formed out of the Naga Club, with the core objective of uniting all the Naga tribes under one political umbrella to help establish a sovereign, independent Naga country. So initially, Naga National Council stood very firm for total sovereignty, uncompromised, which is reflected in the famous Naga plebiscite of 1951, which stands very firm. 99.99% of Nagas stood very firm for complete independence. However, very sad that gradual division happened within NNC. There was very small minority moderates, which can also be called as elite Nagas or intellectual Nagas. They are, even though they were minorities, they were quite very influential in Naga affairs. So later on, these small minority moderates were very much highly influential leaders were used by the Indian government against the majority Naga people. The Naga National Council that stood very firm and united, reflected in 1951 Naga plebiscite. Soon after the plebiscite started to create division within NNC. One reason for that division is because of India's very effective implementation of carrot and stick policy. A stick, in a sense, war against Naga nationalism via Armed Forces Special Power Act after 1958. This is a period of untold misery of Nagas. A lot of sufferings happens, which only a true Nagas can explain the pain. So in short, there was no Naga village that was free from atrocities of the Indian military. Inhuman incidents of arrest, tortures, rape and killings were just too many and too much to even record or recount. So besides foreigners were banned from entering into Naga territory. Therefore, no news about Naga sufferings were able to reach to the outside world. Not even the journalists were allowed to enter Naga territory. So during this very difficult time and crisis, some NNC in the form of moderates, they thought only peaceful negotiations and autonomy can bring a beneficial solution to the Naga people. So they were in favor of peaceful negotiation and autonomy. So some moderates to mention is T. Sakri, T. Alibaao, Kivi Chuse Angami, Mayang Nokcha. They were the moderates, chief moderates spearheading peaceful negotiations in autonomy. Besides, a policy of carrot were also been displayed by the Indian government in the form of economic prosperity and political power. So to enthuse the Naga national leaders, council leaders to accept Indian constitution. So during this time, Azit Fizo have given his very famous remark, and he said, Nagas will never surrender in the battlefield, but many Nagas will fall when money is shot from the barrel of a gun. It's also true in connection with this NNC division. The inducement and offer made by the central government to the Naga people was too high for many elite intellectual Nagas who are minorities in number to resist. So against the will of 99.99 Nagas, who are true Nagas and standing firm for independence and sovereignty earlier, against this 99.99 Nagas, Indian government successfully integrated Nagaland as 16th state of Indian Union in the year 1963, 1st December. So since then, India has portrayed this elite minority Nagas as the true representation of the Naga nation. And this Naga elite, the small fraction of Naga power holders, to continue with economic prosperity and power, provided contradictory information to the Indian leaders and Indian government. And later on, India used those informations to substantiate their claim that Nagas themselves had asked to be a part of India. So the creation of Nagaland as a 16th state of Indian Union would never have been achieved had the moderates or elite Nagas not assisted Indian leaders. Nagas could not achieve independence and freedom because of the very strong policy which was taken up by the first Prime Minister itself. So the Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru said to AZ, Fizo and Naga delegates at Assam in the year 1951, and he said, even if the skies fall and rivers run red with blood, as long as I am the Prime Minister, I shall never allow another division of India. Perhaps the only Indian who could understand the historical significance and uniqueness of Nagas was the father of the Indian nation, Mahatma Gandhi, who in 1947 said Nagas have every right to be independent and that India will not compel Nagas to join. Or if force is used by India to annex Nagaland, then he said he will be the first to sacrifice his life for the cause of the Naga people, and that before any Naga is shot, he will be killed, he will be shot at first. So when told the Nagas would declare independence on 14th August 1947, Gandhi is reported to have asked, why wait for 14th August? Why not declare it today? So these are very touching sort of statement given by Mahatma Gandhi for the Naga people, is reserved for the Naga people. And after this, Fizo has remarked that Gandhi was assassinated too soon, and if he had lived a few months longer, the problem of Nagas would not have arisen. So thank you so much for watching my video, and we will see next time in a new Polity lecture series.